Okay, so I have got a new camera. Before I was using for the face videos on BookTube, my Samsung Galaxy, um, gosh, I'm having trouble with my words today, tablet. And that was working great for the face on videos, but I want to do some hands-only videos. And as near as I can tell, this still isn't an ideal setup for me. I need to get a better tripod. I just have a little tiny mini tripod. And it would be great if I were pointing at my face, but what I'm trying to do is point it down. And it's not weighted enough on the bottom, so it has a tendency, if I can get it to point at what exactly I want it to point at, it has a tendency to tip over. And while it's not a super expensive camera, it wasn't cheap either for my budget, so I don't want it to do that. So I need to save up and get a better tripod and maybe one of those bars where the camera just hangs over. But I think I've got enough of this area, and I'm sorry I didn't really get this cleaned up very well. I've been working on a couple of major projects, and it involved dismantling some books. Yes, BookTube, I'm sorry, I harvested some books for projects that I'm working on. And but be rest assured that I only do that with books that are already in kind of sad shape and falling apart. And maybe if you took them to a used bookseller, what they would do with them is pulp them. A lot of them come from my local library in the 25-cent or 50-cent mass market paperback section. And they're just not in that great a shape. So they're either books I've read or books that I think will contain text that might be fun for blackout poetry. But I like that size for some projects and for specifically cutting out like tags and stuff in mixed media. This video is not about books per se. I want to talk about some things I've been doing. I haven't made a video in a long time. We had some internet problems, and then I had to upgrade my router, and just stuff going on that would have made my video production in terms of output very spotty. So I just got kind of frustrated, and I just didn't bother for a good long time. It's probably been 6 months since I posted a video, sometime last year, I think in October. So October, November, December, January, February, so 4 months probably since I've put out a video. And what I've been mostly working on are some mixed media projects. I am in the middle of working on my first set of junk journals. So this is my first one. This is what it looked like before I put the paper on it. So it is a gutted book. I have taken out the pages. There's a form of junk journaling where you just remove some of the pages, but the paper was not in that good a shape. The spine was not in that good a shape. There was splitting here and here. It would have required a lot of reinforcing, so I just gutted them. And this is a young adult book. Very plain board cover. It would take paint nicely, but I've chosen for this batch to cover them in various papers. This is a scrap from a scrapbooking paper collection. For the one that I have mostly covered here. But so this is what it started out as, and I reinforced this. I added in some cardboard pieces to reinforce the spine here. So you can see that there's a huge divot here. But when I did it here, I put in 2 pieces of cardboard to reinforce this, make it a little sturdier, and it lies flusher. And that's typically how it goes with junk journals. I've used 4 kinds of paper here. So the this one on the front is kind of a cardstock weight paper, and so it's thicker. And then the rest of the papers are like this. This is just, it's kind of the same as printer paper, but it's got a printed design on it, and it came off of a scrapbooking, a pad, a giant 12 by 12 pad of paper. And the same with this floral paper that I did on the inside. Now, once the signatures are in, you won't be able to really see that, except maybe when, you know, you're flipping through and you get to the middle of the signature or to either side. But I was having some trouble with splitting here, and so I tried a third layer of paper thinking that would fix the problem. But what I didn't take into account is I got some Tyvek tape, which some people use in their junk journals because it's waterproof, but it also adds a layer of flexibility and stability for the book. It reinforces it so that if you're doing, let's say I wanted to use this junk journal for mixed media, it also provides a waterproof layer in there. But it just adds to the strength of the spine. These splits don't affect the durability of it because it's reinforced on this side too. But just for the look, I really wanted just paper and not for this to be split like that. I'm kind of okay with it though, because I like the way that it turned out. So this is what it looked like before I put the end paper on there, and I'll put another one here. And then this will be completed for the cover. I do have a little thing I want to put on the front. I got these a little while back, so I want to put one of these on the front, and then there'll be some metal book corners to put on the front and the back, because I like the look, but also I have not quite mastered corners, and I don't know if it's going to show up. The light seems to be, the sun, it keeps hiding behind clouds, even though I have everything. But you can particularly see it here where there's a wedge, and it goes all the way to the tip of the corner on this side, where I didn't gauge the amount of paper I needed here to fold up this way. I should have put in another inch. But the photo corner will kind of hide, or not the photo corner, but the book corner will kind of hide this mistake, and this one is for me. I'm doing a couple others. I have this one, which is the exact same book, and then I have two others where I'm making at the same time. This kind of thing you do in batches, especially with the signatures, because the papers are tea-dyed and stuff. So I have this one as a book that my son left when he went to live in Texas, and he had beat it up pretty good, and the pages were a little water damaged on the inside, so I would just remove those. And I think this one could take 3 signatures, and a signature is just a group of folded pages, and this one has had nothing done with it yet. But I think when I put these papers in this one, so this is a nice fat signature here. You get, you see how it sits here. It's a little bit wider than the book would be. Right about there is where it would be naturally if it was just the block of pages that came out of the book. So it has a little bit of natural bloom all by itself, and that will flatten out. I flattened one signature under, I pressed it, but I didn't under 2 books with some books on top just to flatten it out a little bit. But I didn't on the second one yet, and I don't know if I'm going to. Over time those would flatten out just from being closed in the book. But what's going to happen is after I add in a few more embellishments, some pockets and tuck spots and whatnot, it's going to bloom a little more. So there'll be some ties here to hold it closed. And then as you use it and add things to it, it will bloom a little more. And bloom is just what I call, I don't remember the video I originally saw it on, but if you have these papers and they lay flat, and then you add things, you add things, you add things, it starts to expand, and that's the bloom. So all junk journals, scrapbooking, to a certain degree, because the papers are different and you're really only layering photographs and other flat items in there. But junk journaling, mixed media, art journaling, all of those books get bloom in the pages because you're adding paint, perhaps, you know, items that don't lie flat, embellishments and that sort. So you get a natural bloom, and some of them can, you know, I've seen books with blooms this big. So this is going to bloom some all on its own. And putting in a third signature, I'll just take this one here.